Hello again, Travis Simlinger here from Progressive Coaching located in Zurich, Switzerland. And today I want to begin today's session with a question actually. And the question is this: have you ever asked yourself, why do certain people act a certain way? Why did John go on that vacation to that location? Why does Sarah drive that car? Or why did she spend all that money on that car? Why does Mary live in that house? Why does Tim have that job? Why does this person always react that way? Why do they react that way when I do this for them? Why do people act a certain way? Why do they act so differently to me? And I've got a little bit of a mission on my hands today because I'm going to try to answer that rather complex question in a very short time frame. And it is my hope that by the end of today's session, you will understand more about why people behave the way that they behave, why they do what they do. You will understand yourself more, why you make certain decisions that you make. And thirdly, hopefully you will come to understand, if I explain the concept well enough, how you can take more control of the way that you do respond in certain situations, of the decisions you make, because it is ultimately the decisions that you make that determine where we go in life and how we feel in life. So a lot to try to pack into a short time frame. As I said, I'm going to share my screen now and let's have a go at it. And I'm going to talk about something called values and rules. Okay, values and rules, because these really play an inordinate role in how we think, how we act, how we feel, and what we do and don't experience in our lives. So another hugely important psychological topic that the vast majority of people are unaware of, even though it affects their lives in such a foundational way. So the focus will shift more onto rules in today's session, but to understand rules, we need to know the very basics of values. So let's begin there. So every decision that we make in life, is our mind weighing up what will lead to emotional pleasure and what will lead to emotional pain. Everything we do in life, we do to either gain pleasure or avoid pain. And we normally do more to avoid pain than gain pleasure because the ultimate pain is death, okay? We are a survival mechanism, not a happiness machine. So we will do more typically to avoid pain than to gain pleasure. Okay, we humans, that's it. This concept here, we humans are actually that simple. But what makes each of us unique and behave differently is we all link different things to pleasure and different things to pain. And this difference is determined by our values, what we refer to as values. And all values are the emotional states that we try to experience or try to avoid in life. Okay, the emotions we try to experience and which bring us pleasure are called, or we can refer to as, our moving towards values. Okay, they're our pleasure values. We're trying to experience these values. So if you're playing along at home, then what you can do is state out loud, what are some of your moving towards values? What are some emotional states that you try to experience in your life? And one of the ways we can come to this, if it's hard to try to think of the emotions straight away, is we can ask ourselves, what's most important to me in life? Normally you'll come up with a noun. So a person might say, my family. Okay, and then you say, well, what does that give me? What's the emotion? Okay, because this is the value, the emotional state. So you might say, my family give me love and connection, for example. Okay, so that would be an example of a moving towards value. Or maybe you say, what's most important to me in life? And you say, oh, my car, my Ferrari. You say, well, what does that give me? Well, it gives me a sense of prestige or significance, if I'm honest with myself. Or maybe it's exciting, it's thrilling to drive. Okay, so we capture the emotions there. So for example, here are some ones that typically come up. So excitement, love, growth, significance, safety, security. Okay, no particular values. This is just an example of some possible values, some examples. Okay, on the other side, the emotions that we try to avoid because they bring us pain, we can refer to as moving away from values. So if you were in a workshop with me now, I would ask you, can you give me some examples of your moving away from values? What emotions do you want to avoid feeling in life? What emotions are most painful for you? You would think of some of the most painful experiences that have happened in your life and the emotions that you felt at that time. The reason it's the most painful moments of your life is because of the emotions. Where we live emotionally is our reality. It's the emotions that you felt. And you probably don't want to experience these emotions again. These are the most painful emotions for you. So here are some examples that often come up. And we can have much more of these, yeah? Often there are about 5 strong moving away from values and about 10 strong moving towards values that really have a huge influence on our life. So our values and our rules, which I will speak about in just a moment, these direct our every decision. So they are instrumental for understanding ourselves and for understanding other people. Now, interestingly, many people, definitely not most, but many people will have similar values on their lists. Not necessarily similar to the ones here, but similar. Many people have similar values to other people, yeah? Even with this example, you know, for most people, love is important. So is growth and self-improvement. So is a feeling of security for many people. But this is where we start to understand how people are unique. So this is a key point here. Even though we might have similar values, we all have a very different hierarchy of values. A hierarchy of values. So everyone has their own somewhat unique values, but more importantly is people have their own unique order of importance. Okay, so for this example person here, this top position is excitement. So for this person, nothing is more important than experiencing excitement. That's the ultimate pleasure for this person. That's what this top position is. And then they get slightly less weight to them as we go down the list. So love is also extremely important for this person, but not quite as important as excitement. And then growth is slightly less and significance is slightly less. They're all super important to achieve, but there's an order of how important each of the values are in order to experience pleasure. So let's expand on this a little bit. Let's say a decision is to be made about, the decision is this: shall I stay at home on the weekend with a good book or go skydiving? Okay, what is this person going to decide? So all things being equal, he or she will choose the activity which gives them a feeling of excitement, because that is what they associate as most pleasurable for them. Okay, these are listed here in order of importance for this person. Now, if on the other hand, a different person had here security and safety as their further up the list. Okay, and excitement was maybe not even on their list, maybe not even one of their top values, then going skydiving would probably not be very compelling for them. So by the way, who is right here and who is wrong? The skydiver or the book reader? Obviously, nobody is right or wrong. Okay, we are all simply different. The humanity comes in when we understand our similarities, because we are all ultimately just trying to avoid pain and gain pleasure as best we can. That's it. We're all ultimately just trying to avoid pain. That's the biggest driver of our life, and gain pleasure if we can. And we all have a different map on how to achieve this based on our values. And our values come from our interpretation of our own unique life experiences, okay, which are different for everybody. So when you understand a person's values and their value hierarchy, the order of importance of their values, you can understand much more why they do the things that they do. And you can also reverse engineer this. If a person always does a certain behavior, it is likely that this is because XYZ value is important for them. What value or emotion are they trying to experience by doing this behavior? That's reverse engineering. Because every single thing we humans do in life is to experience or avoid certain emotions. Okay, we all like to think we are creatures of logic, especially the masculine, but ultimately we are all driven by emotion. Now you can also imagine the dynamic that the correlation between our moving away from values and our moving towards values creates. So if a person wants excitement and he is offered a chance, a person wants excitement here and he's offered a chance to speak in front of 1,000 people at a business conference. Okay, that's exciting, right? So you think, well, then the person's going to do that. He likes excitement. This is an exciting thing. But what about this? What if he also fears rejection? If rejection is his number one source of pain, then he probably won't make the speech. He's scared that people in the audience are going to reject him. Okay, it depends on his rules, which we're going to come to, but hopefully you can see how this dynamic can play out. He's happy to skydive because there is no chance of rejection there, but making a speech terrifies him. And maybe the book reader would make the speech if they didn't have rejection as an emotion that they try to avoid. Yeah, so it's our interplay between our pain and pleasure values that direct our lives. So that is a very, very broad definition of what values are, because I want to talk about what is even more important than the specific value, and that is the rules that we each invent about what has to happen to experience our own unique values. So let's talk about rules for a minute. So rules are what we have decided, usually at the unconscious level, what we have decided must happen for us to experience each value. Okay, they're like the criteria that have to be met for us to experience each value is our rules. So let's have a look at an example. Let's look at the value here of freedom. So for one person experiencing freedom, the rules they have created, freedom might mean to them saving their money and then quitting their job and traveling the world. Okay, that's the rules they have decided must happen for them to experience their value of freedom. Okay, for another person, freedom means having a secure and stable job in a big company. So they are free to pay their bills and have money left over to feed and clothe their children. Okay, so they have a very different set of rules to achieve the same value of freedom. Okay, for another person, freedom might mean starting their own business to spend their day doing what they want to do and getting paid for it. Again, very different rules that they have created in order to achieve the same value of freedom. Okay, so who is right and who is wrong? Whose rules are correct? Whose rules are incorrect? Obviously, nobody. There is no right or wrong way to live, as long as we're not hurting anybody, yeah? So this is why people do what they do. That is completely different to what we would do. We all have different values. We have a different order of importance of our values. And then we have different rules about what has to happen for each of us to experience each of our own values. So for example, a person, here we got love at the start here. So a person loves his wife. And her rule is, well, if you love me, you must be present with me. I have to access you emotionally. You need to tell me you love me every day. And her husband, for him, love is also his top value. But he has a very different rule. His rule is, if I love my wife, I will show her my love by working hard. What happens? She thinks he doesn't love her, and he feels she doesn't appreciate him. Whose rules are right? Whose rules are wrong? Nobody's. But you can imagine the situation that not understanding each other's values and rules creates. As a side note, in an intimate relationship like this, the key is to negotiate and meet each other's values. Okay, this is what makes the relationship work, because then you are both going to be the source of each other's pleasure. And this is what love is, right? But in other relationships, and actually even in our intimate relationships, but even more so with friends and colleagues, the general population, we want to make our rules for experiencing our values. This is important. We want to make the rules for experiencing our values within our control. But many people have rules which depend on the arbitrary nature of other human beings, or the weather and external events, which causes a lot of uncertainty. And uncertainty equals pain for most people. I'll show you how this looks. So let's say a person has the value, they want to feel successful. Okay, let's say she wants to feel successful. It's a moving towards value. And these are her rules to experience success. So she says, I have to own at least 10 properties. This is her rules. So she's not going to feel successful with 9, only with 10. Everyone must admire and respect me, and then I will feel successful. I must be a multi-millionaire. Okay, these are her rules. Consciously or unconsciously, doesn't matter. The effect is the same. Is it easy for the person to feel successful? Yes or no? Are these values within the person's control? Are they easy to achieve on a daily basis? Do they give the person control over their emotional life, or do they put the person at the mercy of circumstances? Okay, what are the chances that everyone is going to admire and respect you? Only about 0%, right? So let's look at the same person's rules about what has to happen for her to feel rejected, which in this example is her #1 source of pain. Nothing is more painful than experiencing rejection. So a person doesn't smile at her. Or if my friend is too busy with his family to help me, I feel instantly rejected. Or if a person doesn't share my beliefs. Okay, is this value easy to achieve for this person? It's the opposite, isn't it? It's very easy to achieve. It's very easy for this to happen. A person doesn't smile at me. It's going to happen all the time. People are not going to share all your beliefs. A friend is going to be busy. Is this within her control? Absolutely not. So her most painful value, the rules to experience or to avoid that are not within her control. And many people have rules set up like this. They have unconscious rules that make it very easy to feel bad and almost impossible to feel good. So one of the main keys to happiness is make our rules within our control, because that's all that you can control. When a person has rules like this, where a person has to do this or that, otherwise I feel bad, that's when a person lives life in reaction and experiences extreme fluctuations in their emotions, because they have outsourced their emotional equilibrium to the arbitrary nature of other people and external events. If you want more emotional control in your life, more pleasure, and less pain, you need to make your rules for experiencing your values #1 within your control. Number two, you have to make your rules for experiencing your values. Make sure your rules are achievable or avoidable with the moving away from values on a daily basis, so that it makes it very easy to feel good and very hard to feel pain or to feel bad. And also that constantly pull you in the direction that you want to go, okay, towards your desired outcomes and vision. Okay, this is happily achieving as opposed to needing to achieve in order to be happy. And that's that. That's a whole lot of information packed into a session. I wanted to go broad as opposed to deep for the sake of time. And even then I've absolutely overshot the time that I was going for. But I wanted to still be able to give you the root of the concept, even though we went broad. What I can offer is, if you ask questions in the comments, I will reply to the first 10 questions, and I can fill in some of the gaps for you and clarify any queries that you have. Apart from that, thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. Please leave a comment and a like to feed the YouTube algorithm so more people can see and benefit from this content. Please don't forget to subscribe, and look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers.